What's going on, Falcon fans? It's your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. So today, guys, I'm going to go ahead and do the 53-man roster breakdown. Yes, I'm gonna do it before the last preseason game, based off what these Atlanta Falcons have done so far throughout this training camp, throughout these first two preseason games. I'm gonna give you my thoughts. Definitely could change. Listen to Arthur Smith saying that they're gonna have the game on Thursday, then they're gonna actually have a couple more practices before they have to decide on the cut down, which I think is that Tuesday. Not mistaken. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Welcome, welcome, welcome. But I'm going to go ahead and get a 53-man roster. I can tell you, from the years of doing this is one of the hardest 53-man roster breakdown projections that I have done because it's so tough. Usually when these teams do these 53-man rosters, they go 25 offensive players, 25 defensive players, then they go 3 special teamers, try to even up across the board. But you always have to factor in special teams, of course, guys that going to be able to have to play on fourth down, because fourth down is going to be important for these Atlanta Falcons to have to do this as well. So you got to factor in all that. You got to factor in positions where some guys are actually out injured right now. How is that going to factor into the decision that these Atlanta Falcons have to make going into this week as well? So all these things you got to factor in when you're doing the 53-man roster. So this is what I looked at so far based off these last 2 preseason games. Of course, it could definitely change. We don't know who's actually going to actually play in this Thursday night game. I'm starting to anticipate. I don't think a lot of starters are going to actually go out there and play. I think Arthur Smith kind of feels like he had seen what he needed to see from his starters. So a couple of his starters did not even practice today. Drew Dahlman and Chris Lindstrom. Starting to wind down. The most important thing for those guys to be ready to go game 1 against the Carolina Panthers. So if some of the starters don't go, hopefully they got all the penalties and all that stuff out the way in game 2, and they could be ready to go for game 3. So guys, before we get into that, if you have not already, go ahead and please subscribe to this channel. Please hit that notification bell so you know when I drop another video. Please hit the like button so I know you guys like to hear what I talk about. Then please share my video throughout the YouTube universe so more people can come in and hear me talk about these Atlanta Falcons. So I'm gonna get my list, and then I get quick, synopsis why I decided to go that direction on each position and things like that. Kind of tough on some of these positions, like I said, because I wanted to keep more positions in some areas. In some areas, I was kind of like skeptical of keeping it, more than the starters, because like for the offensive linemen, for an example, I was kind of thinking like, have any of these guys showed us enough to they want to actually be on this team? So, but we're going to start off with the quarterback position, and the Atlanta Falcons decide to keep 3 quarterbacks. We know they came out with the rule this year that the Atlanta Falcons can have a extra quarterback on the roster, making a 49th person on the game day roster. However, that person had to be on the 53-man roster. So, of course, yes, usually the last 2 seasons, Atlanta Falcons only kept 2 quarterbacks. But I think Logan Woodside has shown us enough in the first 2 preseason games that he probably earned a spot. Now they could decide to not bring him on and keep him on the practice squad. I don't see a team poaching Logan Woodside, bringing him on their team. So they could, leave Logan Woodside off the roster and decide to give that spot to somebody else, another position group. But right now, based off what we have seen in these first 2 preseason games, I'm definitely going to go ahead and say that Atlanta Falcons going to keep Logan Woodside along with Taylor Heineke and Desmond Ritter. So that's a spot definitely going to be taken away from another position. But at this point, at this time, I just can't see them not bringing Logan Woodside in. I think he has earned the spot. And yes, he's going to be a backup. not going to play any special teams. So, it's taken away from another guy that could play, potentially play on fourth down. And then in this case, Logan Woodside would have to actually have both of the the first string and the second quarterback to go down before he even get in the game. So, but so could be where they decide to put him on the practice squad and have that position for someone else. But right now, I'm gonna go ahead and pencil Logan Woodside in as that third quarterback. So the Atlanta Falcons at this point in my projections is going to keep 3 quarterbacks on the board. All right, next position. It's going to be that running back, fullback position. Of course, they're going to keep Smith. It's no think surprises about that. They're going to keep Smith, but I think they're going to keep 4 running backs. Of course, like I said, we know Caleb Huntley was on the team last year. They decided to, keep Caleb Huntley. But this year, I think, of course, Bijan, Tyler, Cordell, but I think Godwin Ewabuke has actually shown enough to actually earn a spot on this roster. And I think one of the reasons why, because his special teams, he will be able to play on fourth downs. He probably can actually play on punt. He can actually maybe be a gunner on kickoff as well. So, but we know he can do kickoff return. So these are some of the things that I think like I said, when you building this roster, you got to see if a guy like Godwin Iwabuke would actually be able to, help this team. I think he will. I think he has played enough. He has shown enough to actually earn a spot on this roster. His first 2 preseason games have been nothing but really, really good. I think he outplayed Carlos Washington, so I think Carlos Washington would make it to the practice squad. But I think Godwin Iwabuke has actually earned the spot. So I'm going to go with Keith Smith, that fullback, and then those 4 running backs. So that put us at 8 guys already, right? So 8 guys already off the board. 3 quarterbacks, a fullback, and 4 running backs. All right. Let's get into the tight end room. So this is where it gets kind of interesting. From the tight end room, I decided to keep 4 tight ends. We know Arthur Smith loves his tight ends. I don't think that's a surprise that he decided to keep 4 tight ends. But the 4 tight ends I have, Parker Hesse is the one that's I decided not to actually keep on the roster this year. Now we know Parker Hesse played a big role last year, especially in the run game. Lined up as as the fullback sometimes in the backfield, being that lead blocker for our running backs. However, I actually like the way John Fitzpatrick had actually been playing as of late. I like his ability to actually be able to catch. I like his size to be able to utilize him in the red zone, and definitely he can be a guy that can play on special teams. But he's also a guy that can actually run block. That's really what he specialized when he was with the University of Georgia. So I like the upside on a guy like John Fitzpatrick and his ability to catch the ball, also be a blocker. I'm going to go with him instead of Parker Hesse. So it'll be Kyle Pitts, Jonnu Smith, Michael Pruitt, and John Fitzpatrick be my 4th tight end. And Parker Hesse will be the guy that will be the odd man out this year. Definitely can see him coming back on the practice squad in case they need to elevate somebody. But at this point in time, I'm going to go with John Fitzpatrick over Parker Hesse. So it's interesting. I really want to think what you guys think about that. But like I said, I like what John Fitzpatrick showed me in the passing game and his ability to be able to be a big target in the red zone. So that's why I'm going to go with John Fitzpatrick. The 4 tight ends there. That put us at 12 guys so far. So looking at the 3 quarterbacks, the fullback, the 4 running backs, and the 4 tight ends. All right, so keeping that many running backs. Of course, the wide receiver room is definitely going to take the hit the most. And we're going to go with 5 wide receivers here. I think this is the easy one to deduce. The question is, who's going to be that fifth wide receiver? I know everybody want to know the answer to that. It was like I said, this is where it started to get a little bit difficult to decide who was actually going to be the fifth guy on the board. Um, so of course Drake London, no secret there. Mac Hollins, Scotty Miller, Cardell Hodge, and Xavier Malone is gonna be that fifth guy. I'm putting Xavier Malone as that fifth guy. Um, Simply some factors. One thing I had to factor in was that Penny Hart is not going to be able to show anything this week because he's in the concussion protocol, unless he showed enough already. But basically what Xavier Malone was able to do in these last two preseason games, I thought he have shown well. His speed, another smaller body type can go along with Scotty Miller. Instead of getting another big guy. Um, Started to go with Xavier JJ Ortega Whiteside there, but I decided to go with Xavier Malone, another small guy, fast guy. Um, that that has really shown up in both of these preseason games. I don't think he had a drop so far, so I like the way he's been able to show. I could have went with Josh Ali is another guy, but I'm gonna go with Xavier Malone over this, the fifth spot. Now the question is, Cardell Hodge, he went down with an injury. I don't know if he's gonna be ready to go. Game one, that could factor into their decision what they decide to do at that position. Of course, we know Carter Hodge played a big role on kickoff. He's one of our best gunners that we have on this special team. So if Carter Hodge can't go, this definitely could play a factor into what they decide to do at the receiver position. But right now, I'm anticipating Carter Hodge to be pretty good to go in the next week and a half here before we get to kick this thing off. So actually 2 weeks from now. So actually, you know, he has time to heal. I think he maybe could have went back in the game if it was a big game because he really ran off the field, with a little slight limp. But um, if Carter Hodge is good to go, I'm gonna go with Xavier Malone. That's five. That's five guys that bring us to total to 17, right? Right. So we getting close to that offensive, breakdown for these Atlanta Falcons. Right now, I'm pretty cool. I'm pretty satisfied with where we're at right now from offensive standpoint. Um, like I said, usually they go 25-25, but in this case, I think we're gonna go just by one over here instead of going 25. I think we're gonna go 26 at this point. So next spot definitely be an offensive lineman, and we're going to go 8 offensive linemen. And our 8 is going to be Jake Matthews, Caleb McGarry, Chris Lindstrom, Matthew Bergeron, Ryan Newsel, Drew Dahlman, Kyle Hinton, Josh Mile. Those are my 8. Now, usually the Atlanta Falcons decide to keep 9 guys on offensive line, but I'm going to go with 8 right now. This was where I said it started to get difficult because I constantly talk about that swing tackle position. And when we thinking about the swing tackle position, I really don't like or not comfortable with any of our guys that's vying for that swing tackle position. I think Jalen Mayfield, which reported the last 2 practices. I'm not sure about today's practice, but yesterday and the day before, he was actually getting run with the third strings at the tackle position. I think he might be the odd man out. Of course, they moved Tyler Bravel in as one of the tackles going running with the second team, so he could definitely be one of those guys. And Josh Miles is the other guy. So I decided to put Josh Miles in as our swing tackle, not Tyler Bravel or Jalen Mayfield. Um, but I'm not happy at all about this position. I feel like the Falcons probably need to go out and get a veteran guy. Um, Definitely going to be interesting to see what they decide to do once all the cuts have made. If they decide to pick somebody up off the waivers and bring them in, but as of right now, Once again, I'm going with Jake Matthews, Caleb McGarry, Chris Lindstrom, Matthew Bergeron, Ryan Newsel, Drew Dahlman, Kyle Hinton, and Josh Miles. Those are my 8 guys that I'm going to roll with right now. Um, we'll just have to see how it pans out here. Um, once they do the cuts and what decision they decide to make. But the biggest thing about having a good offensive line is having that trust factor. Um, it was really a head scratching moment when they decided to let Jermaine Fetty go earlier during this offseason because he was the perfect swing tackle guy that had, starter experience, a little more veteran guy that come in can actually be that swing tackle for us. But by not letting him out, I know they was giving these guys opportunities, but right now not one guy has seemed like they wanted to take it and run with it. So right now that's up in the air. Just hopefully none of our offensive linemen goes down, especially our tackles, because then it's going to get really interesting on the offensive line, especially the left tackle, because the consistency that guy like Jake Matthews bring. So just hold off and see, but they have to pick one of these guys, and I'm gonna go with 8. Like I said, they could definitely go with 9. If they go with 9, it's going to take away from somewhere on the defense. It could take away from from that third quarterback, and instead of having that third quarterback, they go with 9 offensive linemen. They could definitely do that as well. So we'll just have to see what direction they decide to go. But there we are, guys. That's our offensive lineup, our 53-man roster projections. I like it a lot, except for like I said, that swing tackle position is kind of unsettling for me, and hopefully we'll see what they decide to do with that offensive lineman spot. But right now, those are our offensive guys. I like it. All these guys stay healthy. I think it's going to be a very explosive offense for these Atlanta Falcons this year. And we'll just have to see what happens. So quick recap: we're going to go with 3 quarterbacks, a fullback, 4 running backs, with Godwin Elwabuke being the 4th guy. Going to go with 4 tight ends, with John Fitzpatrick being the 4th guy. Instead of Parker Hesse. Wide receivers, we're going to go with Xavier Malone being the 5th guy, beating out Josh Ali, JJ Arcega-Whiteside, and Penny Hart. And then we're going to go with 8 offensive linemen: Jake Matthews, Caleb McGarry, Chris Lindstrom, Matthew Bergeron, Ryan Newsel, Drew Dahlman, Kyle Hinton, and Josh Miles. Those are my 8. So that's our offense. All these guys stay healthy. We're going to have a lot of excitement this offseason with those guys. All right. Let's get into the defense real quick. Defense, we're going 7 defensive linemen. Definitely think I shortcut our defensive linemen here. I really wanted to go more than 7, but I had to go 7 to try to fit all the other guys in, all the other positions in. So my 7 is Calais Campbell, of course, Zach Harrison, Taquan Graham, Damon Amenyata, Grady Jarrett, Timothy Horn. And I brought in, I'm gonna go with Justin Ellis, Big Jelly. We needed a big, strong defensive tackle, so I decided to go with him as our 7th guy. It was up in the air between Justin Ellis, Carlos Davis, and Albert Huggins. All those guys have flashed in the preseason game, definitely. But other than that, I just think we need a big body in. So, a guy like Big Jelly coming in, Justin Ellis, I decided to go with him. He's the guy they brought in after Eddie Goldman decided to retire. So I went with Justin Ellis, but it could easily be Carlos Davis or Albert Huggins. Both of those guys have really looked good. So that 7 defensive line position is going to be interesting to see what they decide to bring in. But there you have it, guys. Those are my 7 defensive linemen that we're going to roll with today. Calais Campbell, Zach Harrison, Taquan Graham, David Amenyata, Grady Jarrett, Timothy Horn, and Justin Ellis. Go to our 4 outside linebackers. which could definitely be considered part of the defensive line. So if you want to add these four in, because they're going to be running the front, some of these guys definitely be going out in pass coverage as well. But these four guys is going to be lined up, trying to get after the quarterback: Bud Dupree, Armor Ebiketie, D'Angelo Malone, and Lorenzo Carter. So that's our front line guys. I like it a lot. A lot of depth there. Just thinking about it, who's going to double team, who's going to get double team. They're going to double team Grady, David. They're going to double team Calais, and they're going to have to actually start to dedicate blockers to these guys at this front, which is going to allow some of these outside linebackers to do the things they do, and alongside with our inside linebackers. So when we talk about our inside linebackers, we're definitely going to go with 4 inside linebackers. One of the positions I was still kind of skeptical about because of the experience there, and with that, my inside linebacker is going to be Troy Anderson, Caden Ellis, Nate Landman, and Tay Davis. There you have it, our 4 offensive linemen. I thought all these guys have shown, you know, splashes, during the training camp, during the game. So this is a solid at this point inside linebacker room. But don't be surprised if the Falcons decide to make a transaction on this position as well. Bring in some veteran presence. Depends on, like I said, what kind of movements that's made, throughout the league with the other 31 teams. But just be on the lookout for somebody maybe adding another veteran present at the linebacker room. We'll just have to see. But right now, we're going to go with these 4: Anderson, Ellis, Landman, and Tay Davis, to be that 4th linebacker. All right. Now we're going to get to the defenders on the back end, and we're going to go with 6 cornerbacks. Now, this is really where, when you start to think about the injuries, how the injury bugs have affected our defensive backfield, is where the Atlanta Falcons may have to decide to make decisions on the offensive side of the ball. And the 2 spots that I really was thinking about was that 3rd quarterback position and that 4th running back position, because they might have to be able to add more defensive backs because of the injuries we have to guys like Jeff Okudah and Mike Hughes. So it depends on the status of both of those guys. They're going to be ready to go. Depend how many cornerbacks they keep. Right now, I got 6 cornerbacks they keep, but when you start thinking about it, if we got injuries with 2 of our cornerbacks that's supposed to be part of this 53-man roster, like Jeff Okudah and, like I said, Mike Hughes, now you're down to 4. So that's really going to be a key way they decide to do how they decide to pick these cornerbacks. But the 6 cornerbacks I got right now, of course, AJ Terrell, Jeff Okudah, Trey Flowers, Clark Phillip III, Mike Hughes, and D. Alford. All right. So at this point in time, we know Mike Hughes is dealing with a soft tissue injury. We know Jeff Okudah had an ankle injury. So that's only leave us 4 cornerbacks. So I anticipate that this is where my 53-man rocks projection start to get blown up, because they're gonna have to actually add these guys and add some other guys into the mix. 2 guys I would think about in particular was Breon Borders and Darren Hall. Both of those guys definitely have opportunity to be on the squad, and really, like I said, mainly because of the injuries right now to our defensive backfield. So if they decide to add any one of these guys, Natron Brooks is another guy they could definitely consider and bring in as well. So just don't be surprised if you have more cornerbacks on this 53-man roster projection because of injuries. And they could, like I said, they could fit those in if they decide to go with 3 running backs instead of 4, and decide to go with 2 quarterbacks instead of 3. So that would definitely help them out. I think any other position you definitely really can't affect as much beside those 2, because right now I think if you think about the quarterback position, Like I said, um, it's like a luxury position to have. Not going to play in the special teams. Um, just going to be there as an extra body there, just in case, you know, of emergency. So that's what I would think about Logan Woodside. Then Iwabuke, I love what he have done, but with the three-headed monster we got with Carter Patterson, of course, Bijan and Tyler Algier, do we definitely need a fourth running back? So those are some of the things they have to consider. That's why when you think about it, when we think about roster breakdowns and things like that, you kind of start to figure out, how difficult decisions are. And when you're trying to build a roster and build a team, because when you start making these decisions, you have to factor in, so much injuries, um, how they can contribute on fourth down. You don't want to just have a guy that don't even play special teams on your roster. And he's never going to get in the game unless three other guys get hurt. So those are kind of decisions you have to decide to make. Could be a great player, but if he's fourth string and he's never going to get in the game, he don't contribute to special teams. Why even keep him on your roster when you might need another guy at another position? So that's why it's really important to when they start to do these roster breakdown, and that's why it's so difficult, for guys like us, as fans trying to figure out because we don't have all the every all the information to make the good decisions, right? We asked the question why they let Michael Walker go. We really know we seen on film, we know we heard, but at the end of the day, we don't have our information to decide why they decide to let a guy that started 20 games for them go over the last two seasons, and they decide to cut him. So those the things we don't see. We just have to, guess and speculate. But these were decisions, especially at the cornerback position with the injuries of Okuda and Hughes, where we definitely had to consider, bringing in guys, of extra guys. So right now I'm gonna go with 6, but I just wanted to say that don't be surprised if they actually have at least 8 cornerbacks on this roster, 53-man roster projection to start the season because of injuries. Of course, they can make transactions later on, in other positions, but because if all push come to shove, they can actually, you know, have Jeff Okuda on the roster and put him on the IR, which definitely don't want to happen because he had to be out for a minute, and then bring him back later. That mean they can have extra guys on the roster to fill those spots till he come back. So that's just something to consider about the 6 cornerbacks. But right now we're at 6. Yes, Darren Hall did not make my roster projection because of the guys that I called. I love the way Clark Phillips have been playing, even though he got injured, nicked up a little bit during the Miami joint practices, but came back. Not really heard his name a whole lot, in the game he has played in, but he's definitely going to be able to show something this Thursday. So I can't wait to see him out there. But there you have it, guys. Long-winded, way around to saying I'm going to go with 6 guys, but I just wanted to put some context to it and let you guys explain my train of thought why I went with 6 and why it could be even more than that based off the injury concerns that we have at that position. All right. Next position, it will be our safety position. We're going with 4 safeties. And I don't think this is a shocker to anybody. The 4 safeties that I decided to go with, of course, Jesse Bates the third, Jalen Hawkins, DeMarco Helms, and Richie Grant. Those are our 4 guys. Of course, DeMarco Helms definitely has made himself money this off season. So I definitely understand why he's going to make this squad. Unless he goes out in this last preseason game and just really, shit the bed. I just can't see where DeMarco Helms don't make this squad. Um, got numerous tackles in the first 2 games, and he's always around the ball. 2 interceptions, where he had to go get the ball. It just didn't come right to him. He made a play, so you have to like that. Have earned his spot. Definitely going to be a big contributor on special teams. So everything that I talked about from the beginning, a guy that's going to probably be 4 strings, not going to see a lot, but he can contribute to this team where he's be able to play punt, punt return, kickoff return. He can play all those, you know, every last one of the special teams, and then he can actually come in and play safety if needed. So um, I think DeMarco Helms have earned his spot. I know they had Abernathy, going in, beginning the training camp, but that's why we have training camp. That's why we have the competitions. And I think DeMarco Helms have earned his spot to actually make this 53-man roster. And those are my 4 safeties. So, guys, last but not least, we can't do anything without our 3 specialists. We're going to round out the 53-man roster. And, of course, we know who they are. Younghoe Koo, Liam McCullum, and Bradley Pinion. Those are our 3 specialists. So there you have it, guys. That's my 53-man roster projection. Um, Definitely something that it's going to be interesting to see how it pan out. Now, one thing about this Atlanta Falcons, front office and coaching regime last year, they made 53-man roster projections, and it really wasn't solidified to probably like that Tuesday before, of game week, because they they made more transactions after that. And so I wouldn't be surprised once they come out with the 53-man roster projections here, after last game when they decide to do all the cuts. You can see more transactions coming later on. So don't be surprised about that. Definitely it's something that we gonna have to look at and consider. But this is definitely not set in stone. These guys right here not set in stone because it is another third preseason game left. A lot of guys have more opportunities to actually to show that they deserve more than somebody else. But for the most part, I think you all can agree with me. About probably 40 the 43 spots are already solidified. So that leaves about 10 guys that's still battling for these last 53-man roster spot. Now, we do have a 16-man practice squad. So, you want to be able to keep guys on this roster in the practice squad that have been through training camp, has learned your system, and you want to develop them as well. So, it's not the end for all these guys. And then the way they're able to elevate guys off the practice squad every week. So a lot of these guys, when you do make the practice squad, have opportunity that you never know, you can actually, get elevated to be on game day roster as well. So that's just some of the things you definitely can look at and you have to think about. But overall, about 43 guys are probably safe, and they know who the coaches, front office already know who they are. And then it's like 10 guys, for the 53-man roster. And these other guys, either going to pick up on another team or, they might be invited back to this 16-man practice squad. So just to recap the defense real quick, 7 defensive linemen: Calais Campbell, Zach Harrison, Taquan Graham, David Amiyata, Grady Jarrett, Timothy Horn, Justin Ellis. Outside linebackers: Bud Dupree, Armor Ebiketie, D'Angelo Malone, Lorenzo Carter. Inside linebackers: Troy Anderson, Caden Ellis, Nate Landman, Tay Davis. Cornerback position: AJ Terrell, Jeff Okuda, Trey Flowers, Clark Phillips III, Mike Hughes, D. Alford. And then your safeties: Jesse Bate, Jalen Hawkins, DeMarco Helms, and Richie Grant. And then, of course, your special teamers: Younghoe Koo, Bradley Pinion, and Liam McCullum. There you have it, guys. This year's 2023 Atlanta Falcons, whole lot better roster than it was the last 2 seasons. A lot of positive vibes going around here. It's not the roster that I expect to go into game 1 with. Of course, I think they're going to make transactions around the edges, but right now, based off what we have here already in the building, who has been here during training camp, this could be the initial roster, and then they'll make the movements after the fact. So, guys, let me know your thoughts about my 53-man roster projection. Like I said, I put a lot of thought into it. It was still hard, especially when you think about, I still got concerned about some positions, linebacker, outside offensive linemen. Um, Other than those two positions, I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of pleased with what the roster is built, this competition around. Um, and when they said it, this going to be one of the hardest teams to make. In the first three seasons, they were not lying. It's a lot of good football players still out there. A lot of guys that that has potential to be really good in this league. Just need to have some development done. That will not be on this Atlanta Falcon 53-man roster. Hopefully, some of those guys get invited to the practice squad, and hopefully some of these guys get picked up by other teams. You never know. So, but that's my 53-man roster. Definitely want to hear what you guys got to think about it. And there you have it, guys. Quick, short 53-man roster breakdown. Let me know your thoughts. Who you would have put in, who you would have took out, and we'll go from there. I'll be back with another video to talk about my expectations for this preseason game, this last preseason game. Some of the guys that I'm definitely looking to see. Maybe not even some of these guys that I actually projected to make the 53-man roster. Maybe they could change my mind if they get out and ball out. So there you have it, my 53-man roster. Be on the lookout for my next video. And this is your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. Peace.